So this is my new book coming out in June. It is called Life in the Passenger Seat. We have people zooming in from all over today. We have people from Wisconsin and people in Texas and people from Ohio and all over the United States. And I'm so excited that y'all are here and you're going to do this really cool, fun thing with me. I have never done a live First Chapter Friday. And so I'm so excited that you guys are here and you're going to experiment in this with me. We'll give just another 30 seconds for everybody to get settled in, and then we will get going. Hello, Mrs. Rutherford's class from Ohio. I'm so glad you guys are here. Miss Rishka's class in Toma, always good to see you guys. I'm gonna make sure that everybody in the waiting room has gotten in. I think that we are, so we are just going to get going. So I'm going to change one more thing. Thanks for your patience, everybody. Alrighty, so thank you so much for joining me for this First Chapter Friday live view. I'm so excited to share this story with you. Here we'll do like a little inching up cover reveal. You guys ready? You excited? So this is my new book coming out in June. It is called Life in the Passenger Seat, and I am thrilled to be able to share the first 1.5-ish chapters with you today. This is a young adult book, but it works for middle school students too. It is about high school gymnasts in foster care. I'm going to read you the back just like I always do, and then I will read you chapter 1, and then we'll have time for questions and answers at the end. So I know a bunch of you have sent those in and I have a list of them, but when we get to that part, if you just want to unmute yourselves. And before I do that, I want to give a shout out to Mrs. Fox's sixth graders in Freedom, Wisconsin at Freedom Middle School. Thank you so much for being here, and I'm super excited. I'm excited that everybody's here, but I had a little contest to see who would get the shout out. So we're super excited. Yay! Hooray, hooray, you're the winners. So, thank you everybody for being here. All right, let me tell you a little bit about this book. Life for Shelby Morris has been one giant road trip, but not the good kind. After a series of evictions, her free-spirited, classic Mustang driving mother Gina has decided to move them to Michigan to put her passion for cars to work at the Ford factory. Just when their aimless wandering finally has a direction, they run out of gas and cash to buy more. What looks like a dead end may be the jumpstart Shelby needs for a normal life. While they earn their keep cleaning motel rooms, Shelby gets to go to school and finally, her true heart's desire, compete on a gymnastics team. But when her mother, who doesn't like to be reminded that she is, in fact, a mother, takes off, things get complicated. Shelby turns to school for help and is placed in foster care with her coach and his wife. In many ways, life has never been so good for Shelby. Coach feels like the father she never had. She's making friends, and things in the gym are better than ever. For the first time in her life, Shelby's greatest concern is where she'll land in the lineup. But everything could change if Gina comes back. Even when she's not around, Gina's in charge of the map, directing the route of Shelby's life, pushing her to wonder what life would feel like if she were in the driver's seat. This twist on an underdog sports story will speed straight into the hearts of readers, and I hope, y'all, that you are going to love it. So, I was a gymnast growing up. From the time I was like 4 all the way through high school. Being a gymnast, it wasn't just something I did, it was like who I was. Before I was a word nerd, I was definitely a gymnast, and there's not a lot of gymnastics books out there. And so I thought, well, if you don't see the book that you want to read, then you should write it. And so that is why I wrote a gymnastics story. And the whole thing started with gymnastics. The pieces about cars and the pieces about foster care kind of worked their way in to the story later on. But first and foremost, it started with gymnastics. So chapter 1, here we go. Life in the Passenger Seat by me, Amanda Zieba. The idea comes to her at midnight. It's when most of my mother's ideas seem to strike. We are driving. We are almost always driving. From the front seat, I hear her say, Shelby, my favorite thing in the whole wide world is my Shelby. I smile at this, sleepy in the back seat. Gina rarely says, I love you, but every once in a while she says that phrase, Shelby, Shelby, my favorite Shelby. Tonight she continues, her words rambling as we drive between the rumble strips and let the odometer count the miles. I want everyone to know. I want everyone to know how much I love my Shelby. It doesn't take her long to find a place to make her midnight wish come true. Every town's got one. She parks and calls me out from the cozy back seat, telling me I can bring my fuzzy blanket. I'm not sure what we're doing, but I'm willing to go if I can bring my blanket. The buzzing neon sign should be a warning, but I am barely awake. I am walking into the hornet's nest too sleepy to be afraid. 5 words wake me up in a real hurry. She can't get a tattoo. I look at the man, covered in more ink than clothing, and my jaw drops. Gina can do whatever she wants. If I know anything about my mother, I know that. Can't, says the ink man again. Says who? Gina demands. I'm pretty sure the great state of Ohio. Well, I disagree with you there. Gina holds up 2 fingers. Twice. She gives him a look that clearly shows what she thinks of both his state and his statement. Sorry, Ohio friends. She's like 7. I'm 9, I snap. Go on, look it up. Gina waves to the computer behind the counter. We'll wait. The ink man looks around, as if the answers will appear on the streaky glass of his front window. I follow his gaze and take in the blinking neon sign. Open, open, open. The empty waiting room chairs, the motionless parking lot, the clock on the wall announcing the late hour, or early, I guess. It depends on how you look at it. Gina slaps the money on the counter, a crisp $100 bill. The ink man sighs. His breath smells like cigarettes and buffalo wings. He is bald and bullheaded, and if I had to bet, both suit him just fine. I think he can somehow tell Gina won't leave until he checks, and maybe even then he won't be able to get rid of her. He slumps into a rolling chair that has seen better days. His fingers stab the keyboard a few times, and then, seeing what Gina knew he would find, he drops his head, his shoulders, his argument. Come on, then. For a second, I feel electric. Gina won. Her winning always takes me by surprise, but it shouldn't. I look up at her to share a victory lap smile, but she has already moved on. Her fingers are flying through the pages of a book with the words Artist Portfolio scrawled across the front. Portfolio is a funny word, but I've been reading since I was 5, so it doesn't stump me, even at 1:30 in the morning. Halfway through the book, the spark in Gina's eyes blazes. This one. She shoves the book into the ink man's hands. I stand on my tiptoes to try to peek at the page, but before I can see anything, Gina grabs my face in her hands and she squeezes my cheeks. It will be perfect, she tells me. My stomach sinks. As I slide into the vinyl-covered chair and the ink man takes my skinny wrists in his thick, warm hands, I realize I'm not entirely sure that I want the prize Gina fought to win. The buzzing of the needle fills my ears and replaces my heartbeat. Tears fill my eyes, making it hard to see. Maybe I don't want to see what happens next. But going in blind doesn't sound like a good idea either. Gina locks her eyes on mine, and I know crying isn't an option. Neither is begging her to reconsider. Here's a chance to make my mother happy. If I refuse her this, she wouldn't hit me. She never has. But the icy daggers of the cold shoulder she'd throw my way would be just as painful. A tattoo would probably hurt less. Probably. I take a deep breath and shift my eyes from hers to the ink man poised with his pen. In his eyes, I see 100 questions, but I don't give him any answers. Instead, I just fire back with one of my own. What are you waiting for? Once upon a roadside, I was stung by a wasp as I tried to pee in the tall waving grass. Its stinger was sharp and dark and dripping with poison. It flashes through my mind as the ink man sets to his work, but that wasp, it only stung me once. The ink man comes back again and again and again, his stinger sharp and dark and dripping with poison. Eventually, everything goes numb. My wrist, my thoughts, my heart. I pull my blanket tighter around my shoulders and focus on the swirling designs that circle the ink man's arm, letting the buzz of the needle and my mother's voice lull me to sleep. Gina always says I can sleep through anything, that this single skill makes me an excellent traveling companion. When it's all over, Gina scoops me up, returns me to the back seat, and slides back into her spot behind the wheel. As we pull out of the parking lot and leave the neon glow of Ed's Tattoo Emporium in our rearview mirror, I hear her whisper, I love my Shelby. 6 years later. Chapter 2. Gina jerks the steering wheel to the right, jostling me. Sorry, let me start that over. Gina jerks the steering wheel to the right, jostling me out of my half-dozing state. I've been daydreaming about a beam routine full of moves I haven't yet mastered. That's the benefit of daydreams, right? Anything is possible. But now I'm too distracted to balance atop my daydream beam. Even in my imagination, staying on the 4-inch surface takes a certain level of concentration. I feel the Mustang's low-profile wheels leave the smooth pavement and crunch over the rumble strip, and then to the gravel shoulder of the road. What's happening? I prairie dog from my spot in the back seat, poking my head up to assess the situation. Gina is suddenly considering an exit ramp. She puts the car in park alongside the road. Cars and trucks whiz by, but she pays them zero attention. She is thinking. Hard. I watch her forefinger creep toward her teeth. My finger begins to tap on the floor, restless to escape, but with nowhere to go. I watch her. The staccato of my toe tapping increases, outpacing the clicking of the quartz dashboard clock. Even though I am barefoot, Gina's sense-heightened ears pick up the sound. A single flick of her eyes to the rearview mirror still my feet, but not my adrenaline. I switch to biting at the skin bordering my thumbnail and look out the window. I scan the nameless landscape, and there are no billboards or mile markers to give me any clues. Just a lot of grass and uneven hills too small to be an officially designated landform. How many days since that last truck stop in Arkansas where we last had a decent shower? It doesn't matter. Not the number of days, nor my looking out the window. I know that look, and my nerves will not be distracted by the backseat views this stretch of highway has to offer. It's not that the look on Gina's face is a bad look. Bad in the sense that bad things always follow it. Sometimes Gina's plans are good. Sometimes they are exciting shoots. Sometimes they're even fun. But I never know. We spent most of last school year in Houston and the one before that in San Diego and the one before that in Tucson. Houston wasn't great, but there was a gym a few blocks from our apartment and they didn't have a competition team or anything, but the equipment was solid. Tanya, the owner, let me work out for free if I taught all the preschool and tumble top classes that, in her words, drove her freaking nuts. Things were going pretty good, but then we got evicted. We've been on the road for weeks, cash is low, and we've already run through the couches belonging to Gina's cast of misfit friends. It isn't that we can't ever ask them for help again. We just can't knock on their doors for a while. When the Mustang's engine roars to life and Gina whips back onto the highway, she doesn't bother to use her blinker, which is so typical Gina. My foot starts tapping again, but the Mustang's engine is too loud, and Gina is too far gone in her pipe dream to pay me any kind of attention. Ready or not, the first domino is teetering. It's falling, like an untrained gymnast who loses focus and forgets to clench her core. If you want to find out what happens next and where they're going and what happens when they get there, you guys will have to get a copy of Life in the Passenger Seat. I have given your teachers some flyers with all the ordering information, and I hope that you are half as excited to read it as I am to share it with you. But right now, I'm going to open it up, and if you guys have some questions that you want to shout out, you can either just unmute yourselves and ask the question and then put yourself back on mute again, or you can type it in the chat. And if none of that, I have written down some of the questions that your teachers have sent in. So who wants to go first? Oh, yeah, Mrs. Miller's class.
Oh,
you're good. That's okay.
So, do you plan on making more books?
I do plan on making more books. I have thought about perhaps doing some companion novels to this. Do you guys know what a companion novel is? It's related to the story, but it doesn't necessarily follow it like in a chronological way. So like picking another character from the story. So I've thought about that. I haven't started it yet. But I do have another book started about a boy whose uncle is an archaeologist. Um, and he's a really special archaeologist because he can sense what is buried underneath his feet. So he's always finding all of these treasures and like having better luck than any other archaeologist because he's like got this ability to just sense what's down there. But for the first time in his life, he gets to a place and he senses what's below his feet, and he's like, "No, we shouldn't, we shouldn't dig here." Um, and I don't know what's down there. I have to keep writing to figure out what it is that he doesn't want to dig up. But I have started that one. It will be a long time. But yes, I have more ideas than books I have time to write. So I promise you, there will be more.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Mrs. Fox's students want to know what inspired you to write this book. So, I started the meeting by telling you all that I was a gymnast, and there aren't a lot of books about gymnasts out there, and so I really wanted to speak to that crowd and to put a story about that sport out there. Um, I also know that people have hard things in their life, and that for me personally, I turn to books when I need to figure out how to do that hard thing. When I was a middle school teacher, I had a few students who were in the foster care system and experiencing that. I actually had a teammate when I was growing up in gymnastics who was in foster care and experiencing that, and I just thought that there was a lot going on with that particular situation, and that it would be a good thing to explore in a book, not only how that kid is feeling, but how the other adults and friends in their world are feeling. Um, and so I hope it's one of those books that's like, it's like a window into somebody's problem, and perhaps it might be able to help you too. So that's where I guess the twofold for the gymnastics and the foster care part came in. Miss Rishka's class wanted to know how long did it take to write the book? And it's a not a straightforward answer because I worked on this book and then stopped and then worked on this book and stopped, and like it has been ongoing for many years, like pre-pandemic, I would probably say. All the way back to like 2019, I had started and worked on this book and stopped for a long time, and then picked it back up again. Fun fact, it originally started as a novel in verse, and then I switched it over to prose because I knew how to do that better. So, a long time. 5 years, but I didn't work on it all the time for 5 years. I worked on other things. And they also want to know, please, please, please tell what the tattoo is. And my answer to that is absolutely not. You have to wait a long time. You have to read the book to find out what it is. It's a very, it's a big deal moment in the story. So I'm sorry, I'm not going to wreck that for you. What other questions would you like to know? Maybe Mrs. Rutherford's class, or I know Mrs. Rising, you don't have students, but if you have any librarian questions, I'd be happy to answer those too.
Hi, this is Nixie, and she had a question for you too.
Awesome, go for it.
Do you start with making the world first, or do you make the characters first, or is it different?
That's a really great question. For me, the idea of the story is the most important. Like, there's usually a scene or a situation that first comes to me. And so I'll just, whatever sparks that idea, that's what I start writing first. So it's usually a plot situation first, I think, like the action of the story, what's happening, as much as setting. So I don't know that other writers do that, but for me, it's the plot and the setting that first take hold, and then usually character after that. I have once upon a time I wrote a fantasy book though. It's in a drawer somewhere. It's broken. It needs to be fixed. But for that story, in which it wasn't taking place in our regular world, and I had to figure out a lot of things before I could tell a story in that world, I completed something called the Pre-Write Project, which asked me all sorts of questions about the world and how the magic worked and who the villain was and what their motivation was. And it asked you about the characters and their traits and what their ambitions were and what their motivations were and all of these things, what the cities looked like, what the environment was like. And so for a fantasy book, it was really helpful to have all of that information figured out so that then I could just tell the story. I didn't have to stop every once in a while and be like, I wonder how that thing works. Because I already knew it. I don't feel like I have to do that when I tell a realistic fiction story because I already live in this world and I know those things. I know how electricity works and I know that we're going to take usually a car to get from place to place. I know like how teenagers talk. So I don't have to do a lot of world building when I do realistic fiction, but the one time I tried a fantasy story, I definitely put my energy there first, and it made the actual storytelling much easier. And I can send Miss Rishka that pre-write project if you want to take a look at it. If you're a fantasy writer, yes? Okay, yeah, for sure. Oh, honey, you're on mute. I can't hear you.
I'm making 5 different planets, like all different in culture and stuff, and I need them to make sense and still relate to humans because they actually evolved from humans over billions of years, and there's all these sorts of things like lifespans that I got figured that out. It's just very crazy.
Well, this will be very helpful, and I'm happy to see you so excited about it. And also, you should read the book The Last Quintista by Donna Barba Higuera because I think it will be very inspirational for you.
That was awesome. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right. I'm going to go to my list of questions, but while I'm looking at that, Miss Rutherford's class says, "What is your favorite book that you have written?" It's kind of like asking somebody who their favorite kid is. I and it's even though I'd say like the most recent one, but that makes it sound like I love my younger son more than my older son, and I love them both equally. So don't tell them that I use that frame of reference for this question. Um, I do think that I love this one the most because I'm the most proud of it. Like any other skill, the more you do something, the better you get at it. And I think the better the storytelling is. Um, and so I think that I would say I'm most proud of, and I like this one. I like this one the best. The other books that I would probably say I'm most proud of are some grown-up books that I wrote. It's not that they're inappropriate, you're just not the target audience. You probably don't care what a mom life is like. But of those books, one of my favorites is called Reality Bites, and it's about this girl who goes on a reality cooking show, and there's all these really fun competitions throughout the show. And so I think that that one would be my favorite because it's just the most fun. But I think this is my favorite because I think it's some of the best work that I've done. Mrs. Fox's class wants to know what made you choose Ohio as the setting. So the book actually takes place for the most part in Michigan. And the characters are just traveling through Ohio at the very beginning of their story. These characters spend a lot of time living in their car because they're just like home insecure, home unstable. They don't have like a steady stream of income all the time, and so they're just always kind of on the move. And so Shelby will talk about lots of different places that she has been throughout the state. For this particular scene, the reason I chose Ohio is because that in Ohio, kids can get tattoos. It's different laws in all different places. And so when I Googled where can a kid get a tattoo with their parents' permission, Ohio came up on the list. Um, and again, sorry to the Ohio people in the room, but when I made Gina not really like Ohio, it's because as a Badger fan, I really have a personal vendetta against Ohio State. So it's just like, ooh, like it's just hard. It's hard, right? Those rivalries. So hopefully, I still love all you in Ohio, and hopefully you can still love me being a Badger fan. But that's why they were in Ohio at that particular moment. Let's see here. Okay, somebody wanted to know if I've read all the books on the shelf behind me. And my answer is like 95% yes. I do have several other bookshelves in my house, and I have not read all of those books. But there's a couple, you guys can't see it. There's a stack over there. Of the ones that I have not read yet that I'm going to read and put on the YouTube channel. But usually a book doesn't make it onto this shelf until I have read it. And so yes, I've read all of these. There might be a few random ones that got stuck in there on accident, but yes, I have read them all. Mrs. Fox's class says, how many books have you published? And also go Bucky. So yay, Wisconsin friends. This will be my 14th book that I have published. I have five other middle grade books that I have written, and then the rest are grown-up books. That might be wrong. 4. Yeah, I think 4. The Birthday Cache is one of my other middle grade books about a brother and a sister who fall in love with geocaching and stumble upon a mystery. Another one is called Breaking the Surface, and then its sequel, Bridging the Tides, which are about some scientists who are trying to solve a water pollution problem. And an experiment goes horribly wrong, and of course the adults go missing and the kids have to fix it. And then the other kid book is called Orphan Train Riders, Historical Fiction, 3 short stories about kids who are traveling on the orphan trains. And then a writing workbook, and all the other ones are grown-up books. So all of those can be found on Amazon or on my website. I'd be happy to send them to you if you order them from my website or, like I said, on Amazon. All of my other books up until this point have been self-published, so Amazon or my website is the only place you can find them. This book is going to be hybrid published, so it's going to be able to be in places like Barnes & Noble and Books A Million and things like that. So you'll be able to find this one a little bit more widely, but also, as always, on Amazon and on my website. So book number 14. Hopefully, this will be the most popular one yet. Okay, here's one other really good question that someone had asked. I don't like reading. This person said, what would you say to convince me to like reading? And this is my answer to that question. I think that you don't like reading perhaps because you haven't found the right book yet. And a lot of times when we're in school or when our parents ask us to read books, they ask us to read a specific book, a book that they have picked out, a book that they think would be good for us. And even as an adult, I don't really like that. I love reading, like telling people what they should read, but it's sometimes hard for me to let other people tell me what to read because you just have this like feeling when you see a book or when you hear about it, and like a little piece of you inside of you says, yes, I like that. I want to spend time with that story, or that character sounds interesting, or that place sounds fascinating. And so I think that perhaps you just haven't found that book yet. And rather than taking what other people give you or recommend to you, I think that you just need to go to the library, or you need to go to the bookstore, and you just need to walk around and you need to look for something that makes that piece inside of you go, I want to check that out. And then once you have that book in hand, I want you to go to a very cozy place. On my front porch, I have this chair. It's one of those like egg-shaped chairs. And it's just the perfect size for me that when I lay sideways, I can kind of be propped up and I can have my book there, and I have my front yard in front of me. And if it's not too windy and it's not too hot, I can just sit there and hours could pass because I am cozy. I usually have a snack and a book that I love, a book that I am interested in. And so those are my 2 tips. Find something that you actually are interested in and read it in a cozy place. And oftentimes as kids, you are asked to read something that somebody else picked in a place that is not cozy. And perhaps that's the reason why you don't like reading, and not, in fact, that you don't like reading. Does that make sense? Hopefully. All right, it is 11:45, so our time is up. I'm so grateful to y'all for hanging out with me and coming to the first ever live first chapter Friday. I'm gonna send out a recording of this to all of your instructors or your teachers here in the next couple of days. So if you want to rewatch anything, you can do that. If I didn't answer your question, I have them written down and I will email your teachers those answers. But always, you guys, you can feel free to email me anytime. Your teachers have my email address and I'm happy to answer your questions, or if you're looking for a reading recommendation and you want to hear, what I have to say, I'm happy to offer that up too. But thank you for being here. I can't wait for you guys to get your hands on Life in the Passenger Seat and read it and hear what you think. One last thing before we go, I do have a trailer video that might be fun for you guys to watch as well. So head over to my YouTube channel. I think it's like the saved video at the top right now. And check that out. But I'm gonna let y'all go. Thank you so much. Happy reading, and I will see you again next time on Learning with the Word Nerd. What do you think? Should we do this again? This was my first chapter Friday live, but I'd be down to do it again if you guys are interested. Let me know in the comments what you think. But for now, check out the other ready to go first chapter Friday read aloud videos on my channel. There are more than 200 ready and waiting for you. And as always, before you go, please like this video and subscribe, and then check the video description box for some first chapter Friday freebies. Thanks so much for visiting my channel, Learning with the Word Nerd. I hope you come back again. Happy reading!